3 spine-chilling true stories of sinister abandoned buildings. Unexplained horrors revealed. Just outside of Detroit, in a sleepy suburban neighborhood, stood an eerie, abandoned school. Locals passed stories like a game of telephone, whispers that spiraled into urban legends. They say children vanished here without a trace. One neighbor would shudder while another would nod knowingly. They knew the haunting shadows and creaking walls told stories suffocating in darkness. It was a house of horrors, a place where time itself forgot to turn. Everything clung to the air like dread. Jenna, a hopeful 30-something single mother, found herself drawn to a charming home, nestled right next to that forsaken school. She believed this was her chance for a fresh start, a new life with her teenage daughter, Lily. The house welcomed them with an inviting facade, but the shadows loomed closer than she realized, a mere border away. "It'll all be great for us," Jenna insisted, even as the neighbors, with their surface-level warmth, exchanged uneasy glances about the school's dark history. The first night was quiet. Jenna found solace, but Lily was restless, her teenage bravado urging her toward adventure. "Can I check it out?" she asked, eyes sparkling with mischief. "Just stay away from there," Jenna warned, a lump forming in her throat. Yet, as the days passed, Lily felt an unshakable tug to explore. "I'm fine, Mom," she'd assure her. Each time she stepped outside, Jenna's heart raced, a pulse of misgiving coursing through her veins. Strange occurrences soon unfurled. At night, soft whispers echoed through the corridors, growing louder, slithering under her skin. Jenna pressed her palms against her ears, convincing herself it was just the old house settling. That night, flickering lights in the living room painted crude shadows on the wall, each flicker casting a scene of foreboding. She remained frozen, adrenaline pounding as she tried to shake feelings of isolation, dread creeping into her bones. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." Days morphed into creeping weeks. The warmth from neighborly smiles faded, replaced with discomfort palpable from their tight-lipped warnings. And the history of the school tugged at Jenna's mind, endlessly children lost, a legacy of unanswered questions buried beneath the floorboards. She could see it in Lily's eyes, the reckless curiosity igniting like a match in the dark. Every night, dread tightened its grip. When Jenna found her daughter peeking through the school's rusty gate, something ancient and unforgiving stared back at her, a chill whispering that this was more than mere legend. Shadows flickered from the corners of her vision. Unknown fears churned inside. What awaited them on the other side? A deep instinct screamed for her to flee, before whatever lived in the school could pull them into its consuming darkness. As Jenna wrestled with her mounting anxiety, she realized she needed to confront the truth. But with every question she asked, every disturbing detail she pieced together, the profound silence from the community grew louder. Whatever buried truth lurked behind the school walls was hungry to be unearthed. Terror skittered along her spine as she glanced at her daughter, standing stubbornly on the brink, brimming with curiosity about the dark heart of their new neighborhood. Fear pulsated like a distant echo. Was it too late to escape the horror silently awaiting them? Jenna's breaths quickened as she wrestled with the gnawing dread coiling around her heart. Every creak of the house felt like a reminder of the school next door's looming presence. "What if I'm just being paranoid?" she thought, but doubts chased after each denial. The whispers were no longer soft. They became a haunting melody that wove through her thoughts, threading fear into her everyday life. Lily appeared more often by the school's fence, drawn into the fog of its secrets. Jenna found herself straining to catch words from her daughter's lips before they fell into shadows. "Mom, I met a girl by the school today. She's kind of weird but cool. Can I invite her over?" Lily's bright smile sliced through Jenna's panic like light piercing through storm clouds. "No, Lily, that place is dangerous. Jenna's voice cracked, sharp and frantic. You don't know what could happen. A silence fell between them, thick and suffocating. The glimmer of excitement in Lily's eyes dimmed, replaced by confusion. Frustration bubbled in Jenna's chest, but irony twisted as she realized how desperately she wanted to protect her daughter from something lurking in the dark. Reluctantly, she decided to talk to the neighbors, seeking fragments of truth to defend against the shadows encroaching upon their lives. With trepidation, Jenna approached Mrs. Ferns, an elderly woman whose silence had shared more than any words. Please, what do you know about that school? She implored, desperate for answers. The woman's eyes dimmed, revealing unsettling memories. It's not just a building, dear. They say if you enter you might not return the same. Fear curled in the corners of Jenna's mind. What do you mean? She pressed, but Mrs. Ferns shook her head, retreating into layers of forgotten time and fear. That night, Jenna tossed and turned, shadows creeping deeper into her thoughts. She could almost hear the whispers again, children's laughter distorted by anguish and longing. Sleep eluded her. In the early hours before dawn, a loud crash jarred her from half-sleep. Heart hammering, she crept toward the source of the noise. As she reached the living room, she stopped short. There, on the coffee table, lay Lily's cell phone. The screen lit up, displaying a photo of the school. Panic washed over her in icy waves. How had it gotten there? When she turned it over, the wallpaper was a collection of eerie children's faces, their eyes hollow and gaze desperate. Lily! Jenna shouted, stumbling down the hall. The door to her daughter's room was ajar, a pale light spilling out. She pushed it open, her heart dropped like a stone. Lily was gone. The bed was untouched, the blanket pulled neatly. The only thing that remained was a small, crumpled note lying on the pillow. I'll be back soon. Exploring panic rippled through Jenna like electric shocks. The last word hung in the air. Exploring. A sickening chill crawled up her spine. Frantic and scared, she raced to the front door, throwing it open. The night stretched out before her, vast and silent. Her mind screamed at her to run back inside, to hide, but her feet moved forward, each step heavier than the last. The allure of the school's oppressive darkness beckoned to her, intoxicating and terrifying all at once. She reached the rusted gate. A low whisper floated through the air. Jenna! It was unmistakably Lily's voice. Panic coursed through her veins, almost stopping her heart. Lily! She called, her voice breaking. The truth lurked just beyond the gate like a monster waiting to be unleashed. The air thickened, and shadows seemed to pulse as if alive. She hesitated, fear gnawing at her courage. But deep down, one terrifying question loomed: what could she sacrifice to save her daughter from the clutches of the unknown? With trembling hands, she pushed the gate open and stepped inside the darkness. What awaited her in that forsaken school would push her to the very edge of her sanity. Would she find Lily, or was it already too late? Jenna stepped into the school, and an unnatural chill enveloped her. The darkness pressed close, as if the walls themselves were corners of a vast trap. Faint remnants of chalk dust hung in the air, mingling with the stench of decay. Every step echoed, a lonely sound swallowed by the oppressive silence. The whispers swirled around her, scratching at the edge of her sanity. Lily! She called, the name tearing from her throat like a desperate prayer. Not even her own echo replied. A flicker of light caught her attention. Jenna turned toward a hallway, shadows stretching like dark fingers flicking in and out of existence. She hesitated, heart racing. What am I doing? A sudden jarring sound, a child's laughter, came from deeper within. As she ventured further, Jenna could feel the temperature drop. The laughter, once innocent, morphed into something sinister. It was a taunt, echoing through the empty halls, drawing her in. She glanced behind her, half expecting to see someone lurking, but the hallway remained deserted. When she reached an old classroom door, it creaked open without her touch. The first thing that struck her was the sight on the blackboard, a message scrawled in shaky white letters. Find us before it's too late. Terror twisted in her gut. Who were us? Suddenly, a crash shattered the quiet. Jenna spun around, catching a glimpse of what seemed like a figure darting down another hall. Panic engulfed her, and she shouted, "I'm here. I'm looking for my daughter." The darkness wrapped tighter around her. It felt alive, pulsating as if it fed on her fear. She forced herself to move toward the classroom nearby. Inside, dusty desks were strewn about. An old doll lay at her feet, its glass eyes wide with terror. She grabbed it instinctively, feeling its weight ground her, and moved toward a window. Looking out toward the playground, she felt a tremor of hope. Maybe from there, she could see if Lily was playing, if she was safe. But when she looked down, her breath caught in her throat. The swings were swinging quietly, moving as if someone had just left them. "Lily!" Jenna screamed again, her voice breaking. She could feel the walls close around her, the whispers growing louder until they morphed into agonizing shrieks. She stumbled backward, heart racing. In her mind, fear twisted into an undeniable truth: something was wrong. Then, from the corner of her eye, she noticed a small door in the back of the room, previously obscured by shadows. It was ajar, and through the gap, she heard them soft giggles, childlike and sweet, mingled with something deeper, a low growl. Without thinking, she rushed toward the door, pushing it wide open. A staircase spiraled down into utter darkness. The air was thick, and her heart dropped. Could Lily be down there? Jenna had to try. She took a deep breath and started down the stairs, each creak of the steps echoing like a death knell. As she descended, the laughter faded but was quickly replaced by sobbing. Someone was crying. Lily, reaching the bottom, a dim glow illuminated shapes before her. Strange figures danced in the distance, eyes glowing like dying embers. They were not children. Her blood ran cold as she realized the truth. The photos on Lily's phone, it was them. "Mommy!" A familiar voice called from among the spectral forms. "Lily!" Jenna rushed forward, though dread gnawed at her heart. But the closer she got, the more the figures twisted, contorting into grotesque shapes, blocking her path. "Join us, Mommy!" the voice taunted, echoing in her head. Jenna stumbled back, horror washing over her. "No! Stay away!" But the shadows surged, reaching for her, pulling her closer to the abyss. In that moment, she understood the school's true nature. It was a place of loss, where every child had been trapped, forgotten, just like her daughter might be. There would be no escape without a sacrifice, and the whispers screamed their demands. "Lily!" she cried one last time, before the shadows closed in darkness, swirling like a storm, threatening to swallow everything whole. Then, unexpectedly, a voice broke through the chaos. "Mom! Help!" But was it really her daughter? As Jenna grappled with the choice looming over her, she realized she was standing on a precipice, where salvation or damnation awaited. Would her love be enough, or would it cost her everything? The walls trembled as Jenna's breath caught in her throat. The shadows danced beneath the dim light as she stood there, paralyzed by fear. That voice, it sounded just like Lily, but the way it threaded through the darkness seemed to twist her heart. What if it's a trap? She took a shaky step backward, but the figures lurked closer, a swarm of spectral eyes glinting with hunger. "Mommy!" the voice called again, sweetness drenching every syllable, pulling at what remained of Jenna's resolve. "Leave her alone!" Jenna screamed, her voice breaking. The words echoed off the dank walls, ricocheting into the depths of the darkness. But the figures only laughed, a cacophony of disembodied giggles merging into a single, horrific sound. "Join us!" Forever they chanted, their voices melding into a nightmarish lullaby that wrapped around her, threatening to drown her sanity. Jenna felt dizzy, like a marionette with its strings cut, teetering dangerously on the edge of despair. She had to focus. Where is Lily? Where is she? With a sudden surge of determination, Jenna forced herself forward, shoving past the spectral arms that reached for her. Each step was heavy, her heart pounding like a drum in her ears. The glow intensified in the distance, illuminating horrific visions, children's faces twisted in eternal sorrow, mouths stretched in silent screams. "Mommy!" shrieked Lily's voice again, and this time, It filled her with dread, not hope. "Lily, I'm coming," Jenna cried, feeling the pull of the figures trying to snatch her back into their torment. She could see a flicker of movement ahead. Was it her daughter or just another deception? As she lunged forward, the world distorted, reality warping into snapshots of memories. Lily laughing on the swings, her bright yellow dress fluttering in the breeze, fingers wrapped around her mother's hand. Jenna's heart clutched at the images, each one an anchor tethering her to her love, her purpose. But as she grew closer, the distortion rippled again, and she realized that Lily stood merely a breath away, yet the glint in her eyes was wrong. There was an emptiness, a coldness, as if a shadow had consumed her very essence. "Help me!" Lily's voice turned shrill, sounding more like a plea from the mouth of a captive. "No, get away!" Jenna shouted, lunging toward her daughter. But the grotesque forms enveloped them, the shadows amalgamating into a single massive entity, a swirling vortex that sucked the air from Jenna's lungs. Panic surged through her, overwhelming her senses. She reached out, fingers brushing against something cold and smooth. The doll. She had held onto it tightly, even as fear consumed her. With a rush of instinct, Jenna hurled the doll toward what she presumed was Lily. The moment the doll made contact, the shadows recoiled, shrieking in pain. Light burst forth, illuminating the faces of the trapped children, frozen in expressions of eternal sadness. "Mommy!" The voice echoed again, but with an urgency that made her jolt. Was it time to choose? The glimmer felt tangible, a path forming in the darkness. What do I do? In that fraction of a second, Jenna understood it was now or never. With a wordless scream, she lunged forward, hands outstretched, the desperate hope flooding her veins. But would it be enough to free her daughter from the vile grip of the darkness? Her heartbeat thudded in her ears. The shadows clawed at her, ready to pull her down into their abyss while the figure of Lily oscillated, transforming between hope and horror. Jenna felt herself slipping. "Lily, grab my hand." But would she be pulling them both to freedom or into the unending void? As the weight of the darkness bore down on her, the light flickered. What lay beyond? Was she ready to see? The world tilted beneath Jenna, the air thick with despair as the shadows pulsed around her. The moment felt surreal, a slow-motion horror movie playing out before her eyes. Lily's face flickered in and out of focus, her mouth moving, but the screaming did not match her lips. Jenna's heart raced, pounding like a frantic drum urging her to act. "Lily!" She cried again, her voice hoarse, barely a whisper in the cacophony. But the figures lunged at her, long fingers emerging from the gloom, clawing at her clothes, pulling her back, tempting her with whispers promising release. "Join us, be free," they taunted, their voices slithering into her mind like cold steel. Jenna felt it. The darkness, it was alive, hungry. It thrived on her fear, wrapping tendrils around her heart. She couldn't give in. With a surge of adrenaline, she reached toward the flickering light, towards Lily, her child. "Mommy, please!" The plea echoed anew, slicing through the darkness, cutting through the shadows like a knife through fog. It sent a shiver down Jenna's spine. The words veiled a desperation that froze her blood. "No!" Jenna screamed, tightening her grip as the shadows lashed out. Desperation sprung her into motion, propelling her toward the light. With determination fueling her, she pushed against the weight of the enveloping darkness. The figures recoiled, shrieking in outrage. Jenna knew she was close. The warmth radiating from the light nudged her forward. "Stay with me, Lily. Just hold on." In her mind, every ounce of love surged forth, each memory of joy fusing into the mantra that kept her moving. The shadows shuddered, swirling ferociously, but Jenna embraced the warmth of hope. Just as she reached out again, a pair of icy hands grasped her ankle, sending jolts of cold coursing through her veins. Jenna stumbled, almost crashing down into the depths of despair. Agonizing faces materialized in the dark, whispering terrible truths, each voice more seductive than the last. "You don't need to fight, we can make it painless, just relax." Jenna shook her head violently. She couldn't listen. "No, I will not give up." With a primal cry, she broke free, and the shadows screamed, the sound like nails on a chalkboard twisting in her mind. And then they recoiled. Shadows rippled, as if retreating from something far greater. A blinding light cascaded around her, revealing fleeting glimmers of joy, smiling children, laughter resonating through long-lost dreams. "Mommy!" The voice rang clear, a beacon cutting through chaos. Jenna's heart soared, and she plunged forward, reaching out to grasp Lily's hand. As their fingers brushed, a surge of warmth enveloped them. But with the light came a new terror. A deeper shadow loomed behind them, thick and suffocating. It was the embodiment of everything they had escaped, stretching toward them with gaping mouths ready to devour. "No!" Jenna thundered, pulling Lily closer, her heart pounding in a relentless tempo. But the ground beneath them trembled, cracking, splitting into a chasm of despair. Fear gripped Jenna's heart as the bottomless darkness below gaped like an enormous maw, whispering terrifying promises. The choice loomed large. What if this light was another snare? What if finding Lily was their undoing? Shaking with uncertainty, Jenna felt the unfamiliar sensation of ice creep up her spine. The shadows were vulnerable now, teetering on the edge of chaos. But so were they. Together, always together, Jenna urged, squeezing Lily's hand tighter. Would that be enough to withstand the darkness longing to consume them? The light flickered above, casting eerie reflections on their faces. What would happen if they fell? The tension built, drawing a razorous edge across their hearts. And then the ground trembled one last time. They hurtled toward an edge neither had foreseen. Where would it take them? And as gravity pulled them into the unknown, Jenna's scream dissolved into the echoing abyss. The world around Jenna and Lily twisted as they fell. The abyss swallowed them whole, a dark whirlwind of panic and dread. As they plunged deeper, the light above shrank into a point, flickering like a dying star, while the shadows roared with victory, clawing at their heels. Jenna squeezed her daughter's hand, feeling the warmth slip through her fingers as they hurtled together into the darkness. There was only one thought in her mind. They needed to break free. Suddenly, a jarring impact jerked them apart. It felt like landing on a field of broken glass, shards slicing through the numbness of their fall. Breathless, Jenna rolled onto her side, disoriented and gasping. Each inhalation felt sharp, cutting her resolve like the glass beneath her. "Lily!" she cried, panic rising like bile in her throat. She pushed herself to her feet, only to see a thick fog curling around her, obscuring the world entirely. Almost instinctively, Jenna reached for the warmth that had grounded her, but all she found was the void. "Mommy!" Lily's voice. It flickered through the mist like a firefly. Jenna darted toward it, heart pounding in her chest. With each step, the fog thickened, wrapping tighter, making her feel heavy, as if the very air was a barrier, trying to suffocate her. "Lily!" she yelled, desperation clawing at her throat. The ground pulsated beneath her, as if it were alive, shifting and reconfiguring the landscape into a nightmare. Then, the shadows emerged, slithering around her like serpents, their whispers sharp and sinister. "Come play with us, we have so much to share." She clenched her fists, teeth grinding together. "Get away from me! Get away!" With every ounce of strength left, Jenna fought through it, forcing a path through the suffocating darkness. Shapes formed in the mist, amalgamations of sorrow and torment, each face contorted into a mask of despair. They reached out, fingers grasping, mouths moving silently in eerie synchronicity. "No!" Jenna shouted. "Leave us alone!" For every voice reaching out to her, she filled her mind with memories of happiness. Laughter, family dinners, Lily's first steps. These moments became her armor. She swung her arm, breaking through the first layer of mist. But there was no time to relish her small victory. Panic snaked back in as she heard Lily sobbing in the distance. She ran, each footfall a battle against the grasping hands of the shadows, the suffocating whispers coiling tighter around her throat. "We can help you find her, let us in." "No!" Jenna screamed again, shaking her head as if to dislodge them from her thoughts. Her resolve burned brighter in the face of their lullabies of loss. She lunged into the deeper fog, ignoring the figures stretching toward her, feeling their bitter breath against her skin. Lily, hold on. Baby, just hold on. A flicker of movement caught her eye. There, a small figure outlined against the gloom, standing still and shivering. Jenna's heart shot up into her throat. She sprinted forward. Lily! Jenna shouted, stretching her arms wide as her child turned. But what she saw sent a shiver of dread down her spine. Lily was standing there. Yet the shadows danced around her, pulling her back, their fingers tracing chilling patterns across her skin. Mommy, I can't, Lily whispered, her eyes hollow and lost. No, Jenna gasped, rushing to her. I'm here. I want tea, let them take you. But as Jenna stepped closer, a wave of warmth washed over her, and she faltered. Was this warmth real, or just another illusion? Was she about to sacrifice everything for a faceless threat? The shadows surged forward, and Jenna realized she was facing the ultimate test. Let the daylight consume them both, or let a piece of herself fall into darkness to save Lily. Mommy! Lily wailed again, and Jenna's heart shattered. The walls of her resolve began to crack, loosening. She was losing them both. What would she choose? As the shadows screamed her name, Jenna took a deep breath, feeling the chill creep back in, and made her choice. What awaited them in the silence that followed? Would she save Lily, or would they both be lost to the abyss? In the heart of the fog, where the light could not reach, Jenna felt a chilling weight settle in her chest. The moment hung heavy between them, a fragile thread waiting to snap. She could no longer tell what was real. Doubt gnawed at her resolve, probing deeper and deeper. Lily! She cried again, this time her voice trembling. Every shadow that surged toward her wore a face of anguish, a twisted reflection of what could become of her daughter if she lost her resolve now. Mommy, please, Lily's voice shattered through the fog, a thin thread that tugged on Jenna's heart like a fisherman's hook. Jenna forced her feet to move, but it felt like running through syrup. Each step drew out every ounce of strength she had, the tendrils of fog grasping at her ankles, holding her back like an invisible force. Stay with me, she shouted, reaching for Lily, who stood trapped. The little girl's form flickered, wavering like a mirage. Shadows whipped around her, a sinister wind that seemed to breathe in time with the dark. I'm trying, Mommy. I can't break free, Lily cried, her body swaying as the shadows closed in. Jenna clenched her fists, the warmth of her memories fighting against the cold that crawled into her bones. Then she saw it, a glimmer in the dark. Was it the light of her love, or a trick of the fog? Jenna could hardly tell, but it was enough to forge her path, a beacon that blazed against the gloom. With a roar, Jenna plunged through the grasping silhouettes, shoving at the dark forms trying to dissuade her. Let go of her, she growled, defiance swelling within her. But the shadows were relentless, shifting, morphing, their whispers growing louder, more insistent. Join us forever, we can keep you safe. She shoved the voices back, conjuring memories of simpler days. Lily's laughter ringing bright, the scent of grassy parks on summer afternoons, bedtime stories that wrapped around them like beloved blankets. But the fog thickened suddenly, swallowing the warmth of those moments. Jenna gasped as full weight of despair crashed over her. Lily's face twisted in fright, her innocence almost flickering out, begging for liberation but unable to free herself. Hold on. Just hold on, Jenna shouted, her feet pounding hard against the ground. She slid, losing her balance momentarily, grappling to right herself, praying she was close to her daughter. Then, the ground trembled as the shadows recoiled. Jenna stumbled back as a low growl vibrated through the air, a sound that spoke of hunger and desire for despair. Leave her alone, she screamed, feeling her own fear curl around her heart, squeezing tight. There was a depth of malice in the darkness, a reminder of her own helplessness. But desperation fueled a fire within her. Mommy! The pleading cry echoed again, the last flicker of Lily's bright spirit fighting the mountain of shadows pressing down on her. Time snapped in that moment, an elastic band pulled taut, at the brink of breaking, where Jenna realized she could not go back. She had to choose. Join us, it's so much easier, Jenna gasped, pulling in a breath that tasted like fading hope. No, she shouted fiercely, plunging forward again, her vision narrowing to the small figure of her child. But then she felt it. A tremor in the ground beneath her feet, a sensation like claws digging into her skin, a warning. A prison they were both condemned to. Dread washed over her as she reached out, fingers desperate to grasp Lilia's hand, but instead, they snagged on something cold and slick. Jenna's heart raced as she yanked back, horrified to see the shadows coalesce into a single mass, a darkness that loomed, threatening to swallow them both whole. Help us, they whispered. Let yourself go. Time twisted around them, the oppressive weight of the fog squashing all hope, leaving only suffocating silence. With dread pooling in her stomach, Jenna realized she had to fight. She had to make the choice that would change everything. A final attempt hung before her, hanging delicately in the balance. The question roared in her ears: was she ready to descend into the darkness to save her girl? The shadows crept closer, the faces contorting with anticipation. What lay ahead in the depths of that abyss? Would she succumb, or would she break its hold? The answer lingered, just out of reach, and as the shadows converged, Jenna made her choice. Jenna's heart thundered in her chest as she lunged forward, the darkness seeping into her mind like poison. She had only one thought: Lily. The flickering light of hope she glimpsed before was now a beacon of fury igniting her resolve. She envisioned Lily, her little girl, caught in a web of dread, clinging to life. Would she let this malevolence crush what remained of their bond? Lily! She screamed again, her voice shaking the air, trying to pierce through the oppressive fog. It was as if the shadows had grown thicker, an entity that thrived on her fear and her mounting desperation. Each step felt like quicksand, trapping her as shadows snaked around her, whispering sweet nothings of despair. Mommy, I can't hold on much longer. Lily's voice pierced through the confusion, raw and vulnerable. Jenna's fingers grazed the darkness, something cold and clammy brushing against her skin. An icy shock jolted through her, momentarily freezing her resolve. It was real, a tangible fear creeping along her spine. But then she felt Lily's warmth just beyond the veil. That spark of clarity. She had to stay anchored to it. A gust of wind howled, snatching away her breath, and with it, her hope. The growling laughter surrounded her, echoing inside both her mind and heart. Just let go, they urged, a chorus of shadows wrapping tighter around her soul. No, Jenna roared, light trembling on the edge of darkness. Suddenly, she felt a rush of strength surging through her limbs, pulling her muscles taut. She had been watching shadows wrap around her and Lily, but now she would fight back. With a fierce cry, she thrust her arms forward, breaking through the fog, clinging to that flicker of light that represented her daughter. Lily, hold on, she shouted, forcing the words out, their urgency giving her hope. Mommy, please, the plea cut through her like glass. But then the shadows recoiled, as if they sensed her defiance, the fear in their whispers transforming to anger. The ground rumbled beneath her, fierce vibrations battering at her legs, turning the earth into a living thing, fighting against them. Every tendril of mist rushed in like a predator ready to tear apart its prey. And then Jenna stumbled into an open space, her eyes blinking against the sudden brightness. It was a clearing strange and oddly out of place. But the shadows trailed in behind her, relentless. Help us, they rasped, their tones dark and sweet. You can be free, Jenna gritted her teeth, the air thickening with their whispers. There they were, their faces twisted, mournful like victims begging for release from their own torment. For a moment, she almost pitied them, but she shook her head. No, I want tea. Nobody resists, they crooned, lunging toward her, the shadows forming claws, stretching out with malicious intent poised to strike. In an instant, the fog shifted, revealing glimpses of nightmares reflected in the dark. Faces of who those shadows once were flickered in and out of existence, fears, regrets, losses. All the pain she had felt rose up like a tide. Jenna felt her own darkness surfacing, but in the midst of it, love for Lily soared higher. "Stay with me, Lily. I'm coming," she cried, racing forward, her legs pumping hard against the dense air, each breath a struggle against the weight of despair thudding around her. Just as she reached out for Lily, the ground cracked open. Tendrils of fog surged forth, ensnaring her legs, trying to drag her back into the abyss. Panic flashed in her chest at the sight of her daughter almost submerged in darkness, swallowed by fears. Then Jenna saw a figure tall and forbidding emerging from the shadows. An eye within the depths fixed on her, glimmering like obsidian. The whisper beneath that gaze pulsed in her mind. "Make your choice." Jenna's heart trembled at the prospect of her future, weighed down by choice and sacrifice. She glanced back at her daughter, Lily's face barely visible amidst the swirling shadows. Time slowed. Would she chase the whispers, the easy way out, or plunge into the depths of darkness to save the very essence of light? And as fear coiled tightly around her, she knew there was no escaping the truth. The choice was hers to make. But what awaited in that darkness was its salvation or doom. The shadows began pulling her in, tightening their grip. The question screamed in her thoughts. What price would she pay for love? Jenna's breath hitched in her throat, the air thick like syrup, making every gasp a struggle. The figure loomed closer, its eye a void that swallowed light. Desperation wrapped around her chest like a vice. "Lily!" she roared again, her heart thrumming against her ribs like a wild drum. But Lily's light was dimming, teasing her. The shadows encroached, wailing, their twisted faces morphing into silent screams, pleading with Jenna to join them. "Join us, and all pain will fade," they hissed, their voices merging into a sinister lullaby. They reached for her, but the warmth of Lily ignited a furious fire inside her. "Not today," she screamed, pulling free from the grasp of the swirling darkness. The ground trembled as if it understood her resolve, cracking further beneath her feet. Each fissure seemed alive, thrumming with the despair of lost souls, clawing at her ankles as she pressed toward her daughter. "You don't have to be alone," the dark figures whispered, their fingers dancing inches from her skin, an almost seductive touch that tugged at her doubts. She could feel her own fears swirling within her, clawing to be heard, wrapping around her heart, begging her to take the easy way out. "Mommy, please," Lily's voice quavered, strained and full of sorrow. Jenna felt a tear slip down her cheek, mixing with the darkness that clung to her. Time slipped, each moment stretching like a taut wire. The shadows taunted her, pulling and twisting her memories, reshaping her past into nightmares. She was suddenly a child, lost in a cold room, her mother's back turned, not hearing her cries. The fear of never being seen clawed at her sanity, dark tendrils roping around her mind. "No, I won't let you take my daughter." Her scream ripped through the suffocating mist. It pierced the web of memories, cutting through the despair with a shard of clarity. With renewed strength, Jenna lunged forward, dragging her feet through the spectral fog. The shadows howled in rage, angry whispers swirling in a tempest around her. They slashed at her skin, cold as ice, trying to drag her back into the depths of their realm. But she fueled herself with visions of Lily's smile, the sound of her laughter a lifeline. "Mommy!" Lily's voice was fainter now, fragile as glass. The clearing around them rippled, shifting like a mirage. Flickering images of a happy childhood, dotting the edge of her vision, the smell of freshly baked cookies, the sound of the swing creaking in the sunlight. But right now, Lily was trapped in a living nightmare. "Whatever it takes," Jenna shouted to the darkness swirling in anger around her. Those relentless whispers morphed into a shriek, resonating with the anguish of the damned. And then Jenna plunged forward, diving into the heart of the swirling shadows, past the anguished faces, feeling their cold breath against her skin. She stretched her hand toward Lily, reaching out blindly, searching for that warmth her daughter's heartbeat. But then, as she grasped something soft and warm, the screams became a cacophony, drowning her in despair. The shadows closed in tightly, dragging her backward, their intent vicious, tearing at her mind, You could have had freedom. With one last cry, Jenna pulled Lily into her arms, feeling the warmth fight against the creeping cold. A lifeline in a drowning ocean. I will not be lost, she howled, holding Lily tighter, her heart pounding with fierce love and defiance. Suddenly, the figure in the shadows surged forward, a dark storm ready to swallow them whole. Choose, it rasped. Jenna felt panic rise. But suddenly, a realization struck like lightning. This was the moment she could fight against. Could love overpower the horror? Was her will strong enough to shatter the darkness and become the light? As shadows wrapped tighter around her, she closed her eyes, focusing on one singular thought. No darkness could extinguish the love for her daughter. But the shadows tightened, their dark whispers promising pain and despair. No one escapes the dark, not even for love, and in that moment, she had to decide, would she ignite the light, or would she risk losing everything? The shadows pushed back harder, and Jenna felt herself slipping away, caught between light and dark, choice and consequence. Would love save them, or would the darkness take them both? Jenna's mind raced, a storm of emotions swirling every heartbeat. She clutched Lily tighter, every inch of her screaming against the encroaching darkness. I love you, Lily. I will always fight for you. Their connection hummed between them like electricity, crackling and alive. With a primal roar, she dove deeper into the shadows, holding onto that spark of love. You can't take us, she shouted defiantly. The shadows recoiled slightly at the strength of her voice, as if her words were sunlight piercing through their gloom. The faces twisted in anguish, their whispering cries morphing into shrieks of fury. Suddenly, the darkness surged back, crashing over them like a tidal wave. Jenna felt herself slipping, fear slinking into her heart. But then a memory flooded her mind. Lily, running across a sunlit field, laughter spilling from her lips like music. That radiant joy became Jenna's shield, and she pressed forward into the tumult of shadows. Stay with me, she urged, squeezing Lily's small frame against her own as they bravely walked toward that elusive light. The chaos around them swirled violently, jagged figures reaching out, grasping, trying to ensnare them. But the memory of her daughter's laughter rang louder than the whispers of the dark. Mommy, help! Lily's cry was a fragile thread in the storm. But the love in Jenna's heart was now a raging blaze, a defiance that refused to buckle. As they pressed forward, Jenna stumbled into a clearing where the shadows recoiled like a drawbridge being raised. The light was brighter here, dancing with golden hues, and from it, strange silhouettes began to form, faces of children long lost, whispering, "You must choose to save her, or be lost forever." Jenna's chest tightened at the thought, would it ever be over? Together, she shouted, "We choose together." And with that declaration, the bond she felt deepened, the heat of love encompassing them. A fierce warmth surged forth, washing away their fear like the tide pulling debris from the shore. The darkness shrieked in anger, a cacophony of sounds crashing against their ears. But no longer did Jenna waver. She stood firm, clutching Lily, her feet planted like roots against the writhing shadows. Embrace the light. Fight, Jenna commanded, and the light answered her call, blooming like a sun. It enveloped them, folding around their bodies like a protective cocoon, illuminating the shadows that shied away, retreating into corners of the abyss. As the warmth flooded in, Jenna felt the last remnants of despair slip away. She turned to Lily, whose face radiated hope, her earlier dreads now mingled with determination. I'm not afraid, the girl whispered, her innocence surging forth like a beacon. Tremors of uncertainty still echoed, but Jenna locked her eyes on her daughter. Neither am I, she vowed fiercely. In that moment they surged forward together, hands clasped, brighter than any darkness. The shadows shrieked and writhed, twisting violently, but their light drove back the gloom, illuminating the path ahead. With every step, Jenna heard the voices of those long lost fading into distant whispers. Leave her, Jenna screamed as they broke through the last edge of darkness, bursting into the light. No more shadows. Everything exploded in brilliance, and they stepped into a radiant space that felt like home. The darkness recoiled, battered down by their defiance, and Jenna held Lily close, relishing the warmth that surrounded them as the shadows dissipated into wisps of nothing as the echoes for the haunting cries dissolved. The classroom they had stepped into transformed. No longer filled with the remnants of lost souls, it was bathed in a golden glow, sunlight filtering through the grime-streaked windows, revealing faded drawings on the walls, a testament to the life once lived here. Jenna and Lily stood hand in hand, their breaths mingling in the tranquil air. Fear gave way to hope, and joy bloomed in Jenna's chest. "Mom!" Lily exclaimed, her face breaking into a bright smile. "We did it." "Yes, we did," Jenna whispered, pulling her daughter close, tears of relief spilling over. Together always, the weight of dread lifted, replaced with the sweet chill of liberation. They stepped out of that solemn space, hand in hand, walking back toward their home. The shadows that once threatened them were gone, transformed into memories that would fade with time, leaving behind only the echoes of lessons learned as they reached their house. The neighbors watched with cautious curiosity, but Jenna felt a lightness in her heart. No lingering whispers shadowed their lives anymore. With Lily beside her, the warmth of dawn washed over them, undeniable and radiant. "Let us make some cookies," Jenna said, turning to Lily, her heart swelling with love and relief. "We deserve a new start." As laughter filled the air, a promise lingered. They would heal. Together, they would always fight the shadows. And in the distance, as the school slowly crumbled, the trapped whispers faded, leaving only echoes of hope, reverberating through the dawn. While this story comes to its end, remember to tap that subscribe button immediately, so you don't miss the next exclusive tales we have in store. Smash the like button now, it's your way of feeding the algorithm beast. I want to see your reactions and theories in the comments below. Flood that section. And don't wait a second longer, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Only true fans know how vital these actions are. So make your voice heard.